concerning your car's extended warranty. Since we have your file, press 2 to be removed and put on our do not call list. Press 1 to speak with someone about possibly extending or reinstating your car's...
Welcome everyone to another exquisite episode of Project 86. Today's flavor of the day is leaks, and boy do I have a great selection for you. Now, on initial inspection, everything looks just about fine, and then you look over here and you're like, wait a second, this thing used to be full. What's going on? Whoa, bam! Whoa, bam! So the suspect looks to be this guy right here, as you can see by the pink residue. Let's see if I can get a closer look. Put the camera down in here. There's a small pipe right there. You guys can see where it's collected right there. Perfect. That bypass pipe is pretty dang old. Now that part that I was just showing you guys is actually this is brand new. It doesn't come with the O-ring gaskets. I'll have all of these linked down in the description box below. You can either order the gaskets from Toyota or just use a universal gasket kit like I have, and it fits just fine. When I take out the old one, we're most likely going to see that it is all worn out with maybe pitting, and I'm suspecting that it's not the actual gasket that it's leaking from, but the pitting O-pipe. Pitting pipe. What am I even saying anymore? But yeah, let's take that out. First things first, I do have to put the car up, and then we're gonna have to drain out the coolant again. This is probably like the 6th time I'm doing this, but thankfully we can reuse the coolant since it's brand new fluid. I'm gonna have to put it into a bucket and then funnel it back into the radiator at the end. So let's get started. Now, I did mention that I have a great selection of leaks for you guys. The first one is the coolant leak that we can see is actually dripping right in front of our eyes. Wow. The other leak is the transmission leak, which I don't think we can actually see just yet. I need to investigate and send photos of it to the guy that rebuilt my transmission rather. And yeah, so we've got a transmission leak from the transmission that was fully rebuilt, and a coolant leak from the engine that was also fully rebuilt. Now, thankfully, I don't have any oil leaks from the engine itself. I mean, we did get the engine built by one of the best Toyota engine builders on the planet, so I don't think oil leaks are going to be an issue. I hope, please don't, knock on wood, find wood. You know, at this point, I'm pretty convinced that knocking on wood only serves to wake up any slumbering demons in the vicinity of said knocked wood, resulting in a sort of mating ritual call to fornicate with my bleak future and breed an outcome fitting of a classic tragedy. But I digress. What in God's name is that? Setting aside any feelings of impending doom, if only for a moment, and getting back to the task at hand, we're going to need a few basic tools for this job. First of which are a set of floor jacks, a jack stand, automotive toolkit, a clean bucket, funnel, and a big boy with nothing better to do than to monkey around on an old tin can of a car. Safety is always our #1 priority, and so we'll be using some wood blocks behind the rear tires to prevent the car from creating an uncomfortable situation. This next step is where that jack and big boy will come in handy. If you've got a big boy named Jack, then you might just be able to bypass the need for a traditional floor jack. Our big boy isn't named Jack, however, so we're using a floor jack. If you find that gym memberships look mighty expensive, and we wouldn't blame you, you've just spent all your money on an overpriced 80s Econobox that goes 0 to 60 in about the same time it takes to fill up a tank of gas, you can utilize this process to get in some gains. We found that 3 sets of 12 car lifts gives us a pretty good pump, and with the regularity of our car inflicting self-harm, we're able to maintain a healthy workout schedule. Just look at our big boy go. Correct placement of the jack stands is paramount in preventing damage to our noodle chassis. These cars have really aged like milk, so unless you like your stool soft and mostly liquid, you'll practice caution and check twice. I've never really found a good spot to put the rear jack stands. I always try to put them like right here. Seems like the most solid spot, but if you own an 86 and you know better, let me know in the comments below. I always feel just a bit sketched out when I get underneath the car, even though I do have it supported with 4 jack stands and the jack in the rear. Just that bit of uncertainty always gets me a little, you know, you got that thing in the back of your mind. But if you're doing this, make sure that you double check, give it a good push front and rear on the sides, just to make sure that it's stable on there before you do get underneath the car. And you'll be better off in the long run. Just to make sure you have a long run, really. You can't have a good long run if you don't have a long run. What is a long run? Why isn't it just a walk? Can't we just walk? Alrighty lads, let's get underneath there and take a look, shall we? What is happening? Alright. Now, I have drained the coolant many times, and I always forget where the drain pipe is. Oh, it's right there. Cool. Jesus, there's coolant everywhere. I'm gonna... Yeah, we just gotta drain it now, I guess. The question is, do I put it in the bucket or do I put it in the container? I'm leaning towards the bucket. It's gonna eventually have to go back into the container, so then I can refill the thing. Bucket. Let's go with bucket. All right, so what I've done here isn't really that revolutionary. I've just MacGyvered a small solution. I've got this guy, the funnel, lodged in between this bar right here and the bottom of the radiator. Now, the reason why I'm even going through this trouble is because if I don't put the funnel there, one, I'll have to hold the funnel the entire time this thing is draining, and two, the fluid that's draining out is gonna leak onto this guy, and it's gonna get contaminated and get dirty in the process. I just want exactly what's coming out of the radiator to go into the bucket, which is clean, by the way, so I don't contaminate the coolant further than I already have to. Now, with the coolant drained, the next step is to just take out the 2 bolts, one on top, one on bottom. From there on, it should theoretically be a simple job. I'm gonna cover the belts with a plastic bag just because I've gotten coolant on them in the past, and I ended up having to replace the belt just because it starts squealing after a while. It's always good to have a little bit of a caution. Yes. That looks like a 12. It's a 14. I'm gonna remove these sensors. I don't get it. The bottom one's 14, the top one's 12. Old cars doing old car things. Or it's a 13. There we go. So the bottom bolt was a 14 millimeter, and the top one is a 13. Fantastic. Wow, this is a tight space. I got these lines running through here. That's the main thing that's making this difficult. I think I'm gonna remove the dipstick as well. Let's do that. I'm gonna cover the oil spot right here with the bag so nothing falls in. Just keep twisting, just keep twisting. What do? We twist. Now, these HPS hoses are also new and they're replaced by me. And the bottom of this hose is also leaking, so this will be a good opportunity to take a look at that and see what's going on there. This guy out, and now this should just slide out. There we go. Oh, I remember you. This is the part that I had a hell of a time putting that paper gasket on. All right, let me loosen these guys up so we can remove that. I could use a screwdriver, but anytime I have the opportunity to use a socket, I'd rather do that. There we go, this one's loose. And this one is a different size. Why is everything in different size? I'm actually surprised that these hoses, at least the top one, is leaking. They're really expensive. It could always be installation error, which would mean it was me. That's the likely answer, but let's take a look. Well, actually, let me take the bypass pipe out, the old one, to show you what it looks like. Come on. Dang, this thing is crusty. It's been leaking. is, ladies and gentlemen. So here we have the old one. As you can see, it's pretty worn out. It's also lightweight. This one is actually, the thickness of the metal itself is much thicker. It's got this tapered edge to it as well, whereas this one's just flat. I wonder if this is going to provide a better seal because of that tapered edge. Also, because of the thicker metal, this is just probably like 2 or 3 times the weight of the old one. I'm not sure what the previous owner used for this. Is this another car's, maybe pulled it off of another Toyota or something? I have no idea, but this is the correct part for my car, confirmed with the VIN on my car. This is an 85 GTS, and this is the part that comes up for it. So I'm thinking maybe this was incorrect, or maybe this is an updated part. I doubt it for a 35 some odd year old car. I don't think they'd be upgrading parts this long into it. But yeah, let's get this new one in, and hopefully that solves our coolant leak issue, and then we can move on to investigating the transmission leak and maybe doing an oil change as well. I always have some Motul oil and an oil filter on standby just for situations like this where I have the car up. Saves me the hassle of having to do it again. So I took this guy out just to give you guys a better look at it and to investigate why the tube that was attaching to this was leaking as well. The only thing that I could possibly guess is that the edge on this, because it does kind of stick out a bit to provide that better seal against the hose, is that maybe it's a little less than this side. I don't know, but I'm going to clean this up, install this. So this guy seats here and it goes in on this side, and then the bottom part of this sticks to the top of the water pump, I believe. So yeah, I'm just going to clean this up and install this on the car with this guy, and then we'll take a look at whether the leak persists or not after I fill the new coolant in. So there's the bypass pipe installed. Next up, we're going to put this into there. That was a lot more straightforward than I thought, and hopefully it doesn't leak after I fill it with coolant. I put the coolant into this container. I just spilled some. I only use the OEM coolant. There's really no reason to cheap out on it, and you don't change it that often if you're doing things correctly. So I'm gonna fill that up right now, turn the engine on, and purge the system of any air before we check for leaks. Well, I'm gonna be checking for leaks throughout, so yeah. Let's do that right now. Actually, I think I'm going to drain the oil and do a full oil change before I get to purging the radiator and the cooling system from all the air. That way I get to warm up the car and purge the system at the same time. Saves me some time, and I don't have to deal with hot components in the engine bay. The oil I use is Motul. It's 8100 XS. It's relatively affordable considering how high quality of a motor oil it is. And when you're doing oil changes every 3,000 miles or so, it's good to put some good stuff in the car, especially after we've built the motor. Don't want to put anything cheap in the car. This will be the first normal oil change after all the break-in oil changes I've done. It's about 2,000 miles or so after the final break-in oil change, so I think it's about time to get some new fluid in there. Also, factory oil filter from Toyota. I always stock a few of these as well as a few of the Motuls just for when I'm in a scenario like this and it's time to do an oil change. It's a good idea to just have it laying around. As always, I'll have links to all these parts in the description box below. Let's get to the oil change, shall we? With the oil fully drained, or at least as close to it as I can get, because I'm sure there's still some oil in the lines that lead to the oil cooler, I'm covering this part of the engine bay as well as the headers to make sure that any residual oil that's left in the oil filter that I've relocated here doesn't spew onto all of that stuff, and then when I turn the car on it just smokes. Ask me how I know, but usually in my experience, even though I hand tighten this thing, it's just always impossible to get off. So I'm gonna struggle with this for a bit, and If you guys are curious why I relocated the oil filter here, well, first of all, the original oil filter for this car is located underneath the exhaust manifold, so it's like near impossible to get to if you have the distributor and whatnot in the way. I also have oil power steering and air conditioning, so all these lines and stuff are running through here. It's not really possible to get to the oil filter in the factory location. Also, the relocation kit that I have, the lines that they provide for this kit are just long enough to get it to a location like this. Ideally, I would have had this somewhere else, maybe underneath the car upside down, so when I remove it, the oil that's retained will stay inside of the filter. But this is what I'm working with, and it's a very accessible spot. If you don't have any residual oil left in there, then it's a perfect solution, but I always find that there's a decent amount of oil still here. So let's get this off and put the new filter in. There we go. Please don't spill. There's still a good amount of oil in there. I bit the bullet and quickly removed the oil filter, and during the process I did spill some oil onto my driveway. I'll have to relocate this relocated oil filter some other day to fix this issue. Maybe put it in a more convenient spot with the headers and other parts out of the way. Now that the engine's got the oil, I'm going to turn on the car and burp the radiator, all the while checking for leaks and rechecking the oil level itself. I'm not entirely sure how to drain all of the oil when you've got an aftermarket relocation kit as well as an aftermarket oil cooler. If you guys know, let me know in the comments below, I guess. The reason is there's going to be excess oil, or I guess residual oil, left over in the lines and the oil cooler itself. And it doesn't seem like a plausible solution to really disconnect the lines all the time. And they're aluminum, and they've got these fittings on there that I don't think are designed to be opened and closed that often. It's going to wear away the material itself. So yeah, let me know if you guys know of a solution to that. The car didn't take a full 5 quarts this time. I know it's not designed to take 5 quarts from the factory, but the capacity is increased due to those aftermarket parts that I just mentioned. So yeah, we're gonna warm it up and get to checking everything. The stuff that you see burning off is actually just the symbol green that I sprayed in there. I got a few drops of oil, so that's gonna be burning off. Not a big deal. Although I'm pretty confident with the oil levels, I just realized that the way I have the jack stand set up, the car is at a slight angle. So I want to put the car off the jack stands, put it back on level ground, check the oil, and then we're pretty much going to be good to go. I'm going to continue warming up the car to burp more of the air out of the system for the coolant and the radiator. I do still have this exhaust rattle issue that I'm dealing with, and I really can't figure out what to do, honestly. This part of the exhaust right here is so close. Once the engine turns on, this guy will start rattling, especially once you start hitting wide open throttle or higher RPMs. I've really done everything I could with these hangers. I've taken some off, I've put some on. I just took this one off, the one on the right. That moved it a bit further away. I'm gonna test it like this. I may end up just giving it to a professional. I'm gonna have somebody look at it. I've also noticed that this part right here, that slip connection, when I installed this thing, I was 100% positive that I got it all the way, but it's possible that I didn't, because as you can see, there is some exhaust leak right there. It doesn't look like it's a crazy leak, and that might just be from running rich, maybe some fluid buildup. I have no idea, but I do have some exhaust leak there as well. So those exhaust issues are things that I do need to continue working on in the future. This is a project car, and just how it goes sometimes. So hopefully when I'm driving around, the rattle won't be as bad, since I did take off that other hanger for the exhaust. But for now, I'm gonna put the car back on the ground, and we're gonna recheck the oil on level ground, and then we're gonna go for a quick drive and just have some fun. For those of you that haven't seen the install of this intake, it's well worth it. All ready to go. And that's that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for watching today's episode. I know I had initially planned some cool mods for you guys, but as luck would have it, this is a 37-plus-year-old car now, and sometimes those leaks and maintenance issues do pop up. So now that we've taken care of that, hopefully that engine leak that we found is not something that's too crazy. I've contacted my engine builder, and he's told me to look into a few things. So I'm going to do that behind the scenes, and hopefully by next episode that'll be taken care of, and we can start installing some of the cool mods like the vented carbon fiber hood. I have wheels, coilovers, paint, and it's going to keep on going. So stay tuned for all those episodes. I hope you guys are all doing well, so stay healthy, be happy, and I'll see you next time. Peace out and take care.